Not even built the same as Jake. I would say Jake's a little bit faster than him. He has more power, but he's slower in distributing that power. And I feel like Anthony probably took him a little bit more serious just because he's actually a bigger heavyweight with power. And I feel like he did
get anything out of that sparring that's going to help you in your fight. Maybe you are. Maybe I'm just completely diminishing Jake Paul's ability, but I'm struggling. I really am.
Fair play to Jake Paul. I mean...
And you're right, there's a bit of a conflict there. Because
Jake Paul's latest transformation has stunned fans, revealing a sharper, more powerful physique ahead of his showdown with Anthony Joshua. His frame appears tighter and more defined, reflecting the results of intense conditioning and a focused training camp. The new look indicates he is taking this matchup more seriously than ever, building both strength and confidence for the biggest challenge of his career. Tony Jeff breaks down the possibility of Jake Paul pulling off a shocking win against Joshua, emphasizing timing, momentum, and physical development. He explains that Jake has been the more active fighter in recent years, maintaining regular training camps and consistent bouts. That activity keeps a fighter sharp, confident, and fully in rhythm. In contrast, Anthony Joshua has faced periods of inactivity, which can slow timing, reduce readiness, and make it harder to adapt under pressure. Jeff also highlights age as a factor. Jake is younger, fresher, and still improving, while Joshua is approaching the later stage of his career. Additionally, Jake's physical transformation plays a key role. His new physique demonstrates a stronger, more committed athlete than in previous years. According to Jeff, these combined advantages could give Jake a surprising edge on fight night.
He's boxed, Rick. He's had 6 fights since 2023, and one of them was against Mike Tyson. But we all seen what happened in that fight. Mike Tyson was well past his prime. Where Anthony Joshua, on the other hand, is, well, I'm not going to say he's coming into his prime because he had some great wins earlier on in his career before he lost to Usyk twice. And by the way, when he did lose to Usyk, the last one was a split decision. It was a pretty close fight. So now this fight is matched, and I just want to look at the tail of the tape. Now, looking at the age difference, we've got 28 years old compared to 36 years old. So I guess the advantage there goes a little bit towards Jake Paul. 28-year-old is better than a 36-year-old. But that being said, we've got talking about experience and everything else, what comes with being 36 years old at Anthony Joshua's level. And then, like I mentioned, the heavyweights kind of seem to prime a little bit older. Now, come down to the height and the weight. This is the big one. 6'1" versus 6'6". 200 pound versus 252 pound. We got a 252 pounder in Anthony Joshua. The reach advantage is a lot, which we would expect. Amateur fights, we can see that Jake's only had one, where AJ is at 43, but 43 of them are including at the highest level, Olympic level. And yes, he won the Olympic bloody gold medal, if I don't need to remind you. Then the pro record, Jake Paul has had 13 fights, lost 1. AJ has had 28 fights and he's lost 4 with 25 KOs. And the one person that Jake Paul lost to was Tommy Fury. Now, can we compare Tommy Fury with Anthony Joshua? Not at all. It's like night and day. So now I'm going to talk about the rules of this fight, and I'll give you my prediction, which is going to shock a lot of people after this. So, what are the rules?
Analysts take a closer look at Jake Paul sparring with heavyweights and discuss what both sides gain from these sessions. For the heavyweights, the main benefit is the substantial payday that comes from training a high-profile fighter like Jake. It also provides them with exposure and an opportunity to test their skills in a controlled setting. For Jake, working with bigger and stronger opponents demonstrates that he is taking the Anthony Joshua fight extremely seriously. These sparring rounds push his conditioning, timing, and toughness far beyond what he usually encounters. Experts say the intensity of these sessions proves that Jake is fully committed to preparing for the challenge ahead.
And it's easy work. But what is in that for Lawrence Okoli, Frank Sanchez, Jared Anderson?
Easy money. I don't know how much he'll be paying sparring partners. I assume to get those caliber of sparring partners in, it's got to be big money.
Lawrence Okoli's got a fight coming up. If you're Joe Gallagher, you go spar Jake Paul, is that going to help you?
No, absolutely not. Are you going to get a bit of profile from it, perhaps? People are going to hear your name? Yeah. Does that help? I mean, we're going to spar with Kessler, and I got £500 or euros for the week. It was the hardest money I've ever earned in my life.
But how much did you learn from?
Yeah, me, bundles.
Yeah. What's the Okoli learn? I don't get it.
No.
I do get it, the money. But when you got a fight coming up, I'm thinking, really? Are you going to get anything out of that sparring that's going to help you in your fight? Maybe you are. Maybe I'm just completely diminishing Jake Paul's ability, but I'm struggling. I I really am.
Fair play to Jake Paul. I mean...
And you're right, there's a bit of a conflict there because Joshua used to manage him.
Yeah, it was through 258, right?
Yeah. But surely they're smashing him to pieces. Surely Jake's going, oh, what the fuck? This is fucking horrible.
Every single one of those 3 fighters there could annihilate.
Tyrone Woodley gives a surprising breakdown when asked to compare Jake Paul with Francis Ngannou. He explains that Jake is noticeably faster than Ngannou, and that speed provides a crucial advantage, especially against a heavyweight like Anthony Joshua. Woodley also notes that Jake has more snap in his punches than people expect, even suggesting that in certain shots, Jake generates slightly more force than Ngannou because of how quickly he can deliver them. That combination of speed and unexpected power makes Woodley believe this fight with Joshua will not resemble the Ngannou matchup at all. Instead of ending quickly like Joshua's brutal stoppage of Ngannou, Woodley predicts Jake will stretch the fight into the later rounds. He believes Jake's conditioning, mobility, and willingness to take risks will keep him standing longer than most anticipate. For Woodley, this matchup becomes more about endurance, technique, and pacing than a single explosive moment, and he feels Jake will force Joshua into a full strategic contest rather than a short knockout performance. Woodley then elaborates on the difference between facing someone like Ngannou and preparing for Joshua. He explains that Ngannou fights with huge committed power that leaves openings, while Joshua is more structured, disciplined, and balanced. Against Ngannou, the danger is immediate and extreme. Against Joshua, the threat comes from experience, patience, and the ability to systematically break opponents down.
Jake has been lost his mind. Like, what's new? Like, he lost his mind when he fought me. He lost his mind when he fought Anderson, when he fought Nate. He lost his mind when he wanted to fight professionally and switched over from amateur. It's really kind of been a theme. And I feel like the only person that hurt him ever was me. The only person that he lost to was somebody that actually boxed him, that actually took him serious, used the jab, moved around. And I feel like we've seen fights where Anthony didn't do that, and we've seen fights where he did. Depending on which version of Anthony Joshua comes out, depends on if Jake has what we would call a chance. But when you fighting, if you got knockout power, you got belief in yourself, you got some speed, agility to move around, you always have a chance. You know what I mean? We've seen crazier things happen. Francis Ngannou is a terrible comparison to this happened to Francis. He's not even built the same as Jake. I would say Jake's a little bit faster than him. He has more power, but he's slower in distributing that power. And I feel like Anthony probably took him a little bit more serious just because he's actually a bigger heavyweight with power. And I feel like he did everything to make sure Francis didn't even get a chance to use it. So I don't have to make a prediction because I'm fighting, I'm not commentating. But, you know, I love when people doubt me, so I'm never gonna doubt somebody if they believe in themselves.
Frank Smith reveals that creating the Anthony Joshua vs. Jake Paul fight was far simpler than most people think. He says they didn't waste time worrying about critics or public opinion. In his view, this is entertainment, business, and competitive sport all rolled into one. When a matchup benefits everyone involved, there's no reason to hold back. Smith explains that both fighters saw a clear opportunity. Joshua gets a major event that keeps him active and draws massive attention, while Jake faces the biggest challenge of his career along with a substantial financial reward. Smith believes there's nothing wrong with a matchup that generates real interest. He says the sport grows when people talk, react, and debate, and this fight achieves exactly that. For him, the decision was practical, good for business, good for the fighters, and good for the market. He adds that boxing has always been shaped by big personalities and bold matchups. Smith notes that waiting for perfect fights often slows the sport down, whereas taking risks and facing unexpected opponents pushes the industry forward. He believes Joshua and Jake understood this perfectly, seeing a massive spotlight and a chance to create something unforgettable. Smith emphasizes that financial success doesn't cheapen a fight, instead, it shows.
Do you think about the AJ legacy conversation at that moment as well? No, I think I've been in the sport so long where you see people, we live in a world now where you do something today and it's forgotten about tomorrow. Yeah. Right? And you've got to do what's best for you. Our job is to do the best for the clients we represent. Anthony Joshua has been with us since he was turned out at the Olympics 13 years ago. We've got a lifetime deal with him. So our job is to deliver for him. So when you get a phone call with that amount of money, you're sitting there going, you know, where has this come? Thank God. So it's not, don't get me wrong, we will always look at the optics of things, but we're logical. We're not fans. We're sitting there going, there's going to be people who say this is a joke, but our job is to deliver for him. And that is a fight that delivers for him. So we're sitting there going, happy days, all day long, we'll take the money.
And when you had your first conversation with Anthony about this fight, what was his take at that point? Was he initially hesitant, or was he immediately, for that money and that guy, let's go?
Immediately, yes, immediately. There was no hesitation. You got to imagine, he's been in there with the best fighters in the heavyweight division over the last 10 years. He's never shied away from a challenge. You know, it's not the person he is. So when you say, do you want to fight a former YouTuber Disney star for a load of money in America in 5 weeks' time, he's going, that's a touch, isn't it? Because as any athlete, when you're going in there against Alexander Usyk, you're going to have elements of doubt. You're going to have elements of, oh, this is hard, like, he's bloody good. You know, I would think, I'm not an athlete myself, but I would think that's what you go through. Whereas this one, it's just like, easy. I'd fight Jake Paul for a load of money. So he's obviously thinking, I'll do it. You know, if I'm sitting there thinking, I think it's more competitive, me and Jake Paul, than Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul. So there was no ounce of, oh, is this the right thing to do? It was all day long, thanks very much.
And I want to talk to you about the art of negotiation, because I think that is one of your great talents. And I enjoyed watching the recent Matchroom documentary, and just watching you kind of like, I just think you think very strategically, right, about when people are coming together. So when the phone call first comes in from Jake Paul's people and they say, this is the fight and this is the money and this is the location, what is a good negotiation in that instance for you? Like, did you manage to up the money hugely? Did you manage to get certain clauses or deals in place that you wanted?
Yeah, always pushing to get more money or certain elements that work for you, and we did that in this instance. Boxing, though, as a business, is something that's so much led by ego, you know, and that's the biggest downfall of people in boxing. Ego drives everything. Whereas sometimes it's about, is this the best thing to do? You know, like we've been in places before where we're not promoting this show, for example. It's not on our broadcaster. We did a deal with DAZN to allow the fight to go ahead, who's Anthony's exclusive broadcast partner. And it was about, does this deal make sense? So when it came to the money, we pushed hard on the money. We pushed hard on all of the ancillary terms around it.
What sort of things are ancillary terms?
So whether it's flights, hotels, sponsors, you know, all of the elements that come alongside it. Not so much in this fight, because officials,
Pauli Malignaggi immediately raises doubts about whether this fight will actually happen. He suggests the announcement may be more about generating buzz than confirming a real event. Malignaggi believes it's possible both sides announced it to grab headlines, dominate social media, and spark global debate, only to cancel later once the attention has served its purpose. He points out that boxing has used similar tactics before, with matchups teased, hyped, and heavily discussed without ever coming to fruition. His skepticism comes from patterns he has seen in the sport: surprise announcements, vague details, and dramatic marketing that fades before fight night. Analysts today describe the Joshua vs. Jake Paul fight as one of the boldest moves Jake has ever made. They admire the ambition but also stress the risk. Stepping in against a seasoned heavyweight, someone who has fought at the highest level for years, shows Jake is pushing himself further than any influencer-turned-fighter before. The panel sees this as a dramatic escalation in competitive risk, not just a marketing spectacle. They acknowledge Jake's growth, training discipline, and improved technique, but emphasize that Joshua represents a completely different reality, a fighter with Olympic pedigree, multiple world titles, and knockout power, presenting a threat Jake has never faced.
Signed it just to make people talk. He goes, I think Jake's gonna wind up pulling out or something. He goes, Joshua has a fight scheduled against the Glory heavyweight kickboxing champion on February 14th in boxing. I forgot the guy's name. He's a Dutch guy. This could be just a sparring session on the way there. He goes, but honestly, I don't see Jake actually doing it. This would be crazy. So you know what? I hope it's not a cock tease. I hope that it is.
If it's not, let's go. If it's not, what happens? Because you're talking to me on the phone the other day.
I can't see nothing else but a stoppage win for AJ. It's actually, if I'm really gonna be brutally honest, it's actually the kind of fight where I can't believe any commission would even allow it. To tell you the truth, if I'm really honest, so it's good. That's, you know, typically commissions are very strict about matchups and, you know, the kind of fights they allow you to put together, and for safety reasons and hazardous reasons and whatnot. So this is the kind of fight that actually surprised me they would even allow it. But I know Florida is a bit of more flexible commission than our stricter commissions like California, Nevada, Texas, and New York. But those are probably the big four. But Florida has its share of pretty big cards since COVID, you know. So Florida's an ascending commission, and you know, the fact they allowed it is interesting. But you know what? It's something I got to think about. You know, will the fight actually go through? You know, because yeah, you can't see anything but a knockout. I was looking at the odds. I've actually already put in my AJ bets, and I've already on parlays, and I actually have 2 parlays that I've already cleaned up on.
Wade breaks down what he calls Jake Paul's secret weapon for preparing for Joshua: consistent sparring with heavyweights. He explains that Jake has been working with big, experienced fighters who mirror Joshua's physical frame, similar height, reach, power, and presence in the ring. This type of preparation shows how seriously Jake is approaching the challenge. Wade says Jake wants to feel the force, pressure, and intensity of heavyweight power long before fight night, so nothing surprises him once he's in the ring. He adds that Jake isn't sparring with just one heavyweight. Instead, he rotates through multiple big fighters, each bringing different strengths, some focusing on pressure, others on counterpunching, and some on pure physical strength.
Alone a top 10, top 5 heavyweight in Anthony Joshua, who was a 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. Can you get prepared for a guy like that if you brought in, let's just say, a deity, freaking Zeus, Hercules, whoever, to prepare you? Could you do it? I don't think that Jake would have enough time, seeing as he's already undersized. He's not a real heavyweight, and this is Anthony fucking Joshua we're talking about. But I will say there were rumors going around that Jake was not taking this fight as seriously as he needed to. That Jake was dilly-dallying, flying to go see F1 in Miami after his press conference, and then going to see his girl all the way in the Netherlands if she's trying to qualify for, I think, the Olympics or something else. There was this post from his girlfriend. I don't know if, again, this was in the Netherlands or where it was at, or maybe this is an old picture, but Jake flying around the world when he has a fight in about 4 weeks is probably not the greatest look, and it doesn't seem to make it look like he's taking it as serious as he needs to, locked away in the gyms of Puerto Rico. Now, again, that could have been a different picture. That could have been something else, but that's pretty shocking to see. With that being said, I want to push back on that because I do think Jake is taking this as seriously as he absolutely needs to, because this is not only the toughest fight of his career, it's the most dangerous to the longevity of his career, to his health and well-being. And so to do something like that, you need to bring in the best help possible to get ready. We already heard that Jake Paul was preparing it for Anthony Joshua by sparring the guy that Anthony Joshua was about to fight in Cassius Chaney, this gentleman right here, who was 24-3 from B-More, aka the DMV, and apparently is a top 100 heavyweight, even though it does.
Luke Thomas breaks down the matchup and makes it clear that Joshua is a massive and extremely dangerous opponent. He says Joshua's size is only part of the threat. The real danger comes from his experience, technique, and ability to dismantle opponents. Thomas explains that Joshua knows how to manage distance, disrupt rhythm, and apply pressure at the perfect moment. Jake may be getting better, but Joshua has spent years facing elite heavyweights with far greater power and tactical awareness. Thomas stresses that Jake must understand the seriousness of this challenge. Joshua's strength isn't just physical, it's strategic. He is disciplined, patient, and capable of finishing fights with a single, well-timed combination.
Is a gigantic 6'6" heavyweight. Now, he is coming off of a devastating KO loss himself to another big heavyweight named Daniel Dubois. This was a big show. But Jake Paul, while, has a decent pop for a guy who has not been doing boxing that long, it's almost incomprehensible. This is the kind of thing the state would never have regulated before. They now seem much more open to it than they ever once were. But I also think that there might be something happening, and this is, I'm speculating. I want to be clear. I'm not giving you skinny, but I don't understand how you can go from a bout with a guy that you are massively oversized against, who's very good, to one who you are massively undersized against, who's also